What's happening?
Mike, my brother, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Chris?
I am blessed, bro. First of all, I love the background, bro, with the marketing, the logo, the hat. Yeah, that's what's up, man. That is what is up. My brother, man, let me just jump in and first of all introduce you to my audience. Mike C-Roc Ciorrocco is a phenomenal entrepreneur, speaker, an author, which we're going to talk about his book. And what I understand, he's going to go play some baseball later on tomorrow. So I'm wondering, are you as well a good baseball player or no, bro?
It's basketball.
Oh, basketball,
Yeah,
even better.
basketball.
Even
Yeah.
better. I don't know why I thought baseball.
No, but I'm 5'6 3/4", so I'm not the best basketball player. And I'm playing with some NFL football, former football players, and some others. So I'm really there just to kind of maybe coach more than more than anything.
I love that, brother. And listen, the height doesn't play a role because we could think about Spud Webb used to do dunks at like 5'6", 5'7". So you
Yeah,
never know, brother.
yeah.
Maybe you get some leap up in there.
Oh, if I get the ball, I'm shooting. You can guarantee that.
I love it. I love it. And for your audience, let me just present myself as well. My name is Christopher Dedeyan. I'm a professional speaker and a peak performance coach. So, Mike, man, thank you for being here. I was checking out all your stuff, and you're just phenomenal with every sense of the way what you're doing. And the first question I want to ask you, as I went through your stuff and I saw that Yahoo Finance named you an entrepreneur to be looking for, to learn from in 2020. I just want to know how come you had that honors? Is there something specific that you put out in 2020? Talk to me a bit about that. What's your entrepreneurial journey like? What do you currently do that really gets people to follow you in such a high level?
Yeah, so 2019, I started a podcast called What Are You Made Of? That's the backdrop there. And I just started interviewing some great guests. And while I was doing that, though, I was always sharing my message, whether it was on my podcast, social media, or I've did 300 interviews in the last 18 months myself. So not my own, but like going on other shows. So I just made sure that
Wow.
I was everywhere. And when you do that, and I was pumping content out on all social media platforms that you could think of. When you do that, one, you become omnipresent. So people think that this guy is, onto something. He's everywhere. Now, I am, but I still made sure they knew it. The other thing is when you talk as much as I do on social media and you put out so much content, I can't help but be myself because if not, somebody's going to catch on to it. And there's so much content there that I would have said something that somebody would have seen, and that's the point of it. So I've launched a company twice now that's gone over $10 million. Now we're getting into tech, so now we're going into the 100 million billion range is what we're looking for. And I partnered up with a guy named Jared Yellen, who also partnered up with Grant Cardone in the 10X Incubator. And so we're with the right people, the right team, surrounding ourselves with those people that can really blow things up and bring as many people along with us as we can too. That's important. It's not just for us.
I love that, Mike. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things. First and foremost, omnipresence, essentially being as many as places as possible at once. And then that's going to create a familiarity. So then people are going to come up to you. Second thing, you're obviously putting in the work. Even though you started your own podcast, you're going on 300 podcast interviews in the last 18 months. Like, I don't know if people understand how much work that is. I do one interview per week, other than me interviewing some people on my stuff. But even that, like, it blocks up a lot of time in your schedule. So you must have a very structured schedule and a team around you. That's what I wanted to ask as well. If you're putting out this much stuff, how did you start that? Was it slow or right away you just went in and you just got a full team around you? How's your team look like? What's your posting schedule? How do you do that and still run a very successful business?
So first of all, I started the business that we run back in 2011. It's a home loan mortgage business. We started with that. And I built a team of awesome people. We started with culture. We built, core values, and then we lined everybody with that. And then we make sure that people understand what their position is and what their duties are. So that allowed me to step away from the business and allowed them to run it, where I'll spend maybe an hour to two a day, if that, in the business. And they run it. And I trust them that they run it. And I watch the numbers because the numbers don't lie. So I'm a stats guy, graphs. I mean, the numbers don't lie. So I can see when we're going up, when we're flattening out, when we're going down, and I know when to light the fire. And so that helps. So that freed me up. And then from there, I mean, I just committed. Like one of the things that's really big for me is, getting clear on what I want in life. And once I
Mhm.
got clear on what I wanted in my life, and once I committed, then I was just had to make consistent actions towards it. And so I automatically do that because I want something so bad, I go get it. I've always been
I
like
love
that my
that.
whole life. If I want something, I've gotten it. And it's not because people have handed it to me and I'm spoiled. It's because I just don't quit. I don't give up. And so I did that. And when I was going to do it, I said, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I don't want to do it just a little bit because I won't get good at it. And I won't get good at it fast enough. So I'm a little impatient, Chris. And I want to make sure that the impatience, I'm not waiting on myself. I might have to wait on other people, but I'm not going to wait on myself.
Oh my God, bro, that was so delicious. Really, really, really great stuff. Because just the last latter part of like, hey, I'm impatient. I'm definitely noticing it, and not in a bad way, but I'm noticing it in what you're saying, that just that energy and that vibrance of like, hey, I want it and I wanted it yesterday. So I'm gonna do what I need to do to get it as soon as possible, and then let kind of the universe and life kind of put it in place. But you're gonna put in the work for that. So I love that aspect. I love that you're doing that approach. And everything that you're doing, what I understand, there's a like underlining of value driven approach. Like everything you're doing is you want to help others as well, and you want to bring people to that same level. So Mike, as you were kind of deciding to go into this world and figuring it out, and you really separate your time and your team around you, how were you able to really understand that, okay, this was my purpose, and you found out that this is the fuel I need? And how did you kind of correlate that together to really put that fire in your butt? Because what I understand is that you have a lot of that and it kind of clicked off. Is there something that happened, like this aha moment, like, hey, this is what I need to do?
Yeah, so I watch and observe a lot of people, and I see people that are doing things that I want to do, and I just watch and observe them. And then I start to imagine myself in their position and how I would do it better and how I can do it better. And then, from a young age, my dad, there's a story that I won't share on here, for the, respect of time, but my dad and I don't get to see each other. I don't get to see him. It's not by my choice. But at a young age, when I was about 11, after I decided to move out of his house because of abusive situation, he used to carry this wad of $100 bills around with him, and I used to look up to him for that. This rubber band, and he peeled a $100 bill off, crumpled it up, and threw it at me when I was 11, and said, "You're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother one day." And so that event sparked a fire in me that cannot be put out. And I've 30 some years I've driven off of that. When things got tough or things went great and I wanted to take it to the next level, I just remembered that I'm not going to need that money that he threw at me. I'm going to make sure of it. And so that's a spark that has, pushed me. Now, to answer your question, I've surrounded myself with great people, including coaches and mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch those coaches and mentors. I take notes feverishly. I have, one, two, three, four, five, six notebooks on my desk of notes, and I'm constantly writing notes and then paying attention. Okay, what is important here? What do I need to implement right away? What can I wait on? And some of the things that I implemented right away was, what is my mission? Like, I need to know something to eliminate all the clutter, all the confusion and distractions. I need a binary decision, which is one way or the other. And so what a mission is, mine is, all people are unstoppable to live in the life of their dreams. And so that mission allows me to filter my decisions, my thoughts, my words, my actions, all through that. If it serves it, I do it. If it doesn't serve it, I don't do it. And that's it. And it makes things simple. Like, a lot of times when people see successful people, they think, man, they must be doing all this stuff and all. No, they get rid of a lot of stuff. They give a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff up, and they avoid confusion. And so that blueprint that came from my coaches, I took, I implemented it, and I attacked it. And then what? By the way, Chris, when you do this, you start having success with it, your confidence goes up. You can
Mm-hmm.
do more. You can see that you can do more, and it's an attraction thing because people start
Yes.
wanting to be around you and work with you and do things with you. And it's a powerful thing.
I love that, Mike. I love that. And you alluded to this in the first thing that you answered, is that clarity aspect. And once you figure out what your mission and vision is, and you're like, hey, this is the target. What am I doing? Is it bringing needle forward for that target? And then it becomes so much easier. And I love the fact that you alluded to successful people understanding that, and
Right.
that momentum that it creates, that energy that it creates, and what it attracts. And it's very obvious that you have that. And I love the story as well, that that little $100 bill that your father kind of threw at you. I have two questions with that. First and foremost, do you still have that $100 bill? Is it somewhere like very
Nah,
momentous for you and you look at it, or it's just in your mind?
no, I didn't bother to pick it up.
Okay. I love that even more. Beautiful. So you have that ideology. Second thing, I know that within your book, you allude to the rocket fuel, and you're somebody that's very passionate about helping people rocket fuel. And you had this experience within your father that you allude to and you take back when you need it. How do you get people to find that emotion within them, that rocket fuel in itself? Is it like a 1-2-step program? Is it like top 3 things they need to do? What would you speak to that if somebody's listening right now and needs to get that rocket fuel in their personal life?
Yeah, so what I'm big on is causing and creating futures for people, and for myself to start, though. So it all starts with myself. I have to hold myself and live to a certain standard before I go preaching and talking about it. Because if I don't, I will be looked at as a fraud. It'll come out. And as long as I do that and I live to the standard that I expect and I hold and I teach, I never have imposter syndrome. I'm fully confident in my abilities and what I can do. So that's the first step, is I exemplify it first after I work on myself. And by the way, as you know, we don't ever stop working on ourselves.
Yes.
So that's the first step. But I'll go back to what we talked about earlier, like the 3 C's. I call them the 3 C's. It's clarity, getting very, very clear, like unreasonable, unrealistic. Like, we can't comprehend our potential. Nobody can. And so if that's the case, why would we set targets and goals and clear vision of what we want based on what we know and believe? It's kind of asinine. It's so limiting. So what I do is I teach people to be clear, and what would light you up right now? This is some things my coach Rich teaches us. What would light you up right now if you knew you achieved it down the road? What would that be? No limitations, nothing. What would make you so fired up, like you could, just wild, you couldn't believe it? And then we start there. Get a clear vision of that. Visualize it. Write it down. Like very, very clear, vivid vision, as Cameron Herold talks about, vivid vision statement. From there, once you have your clarity, because by the way, Chris, your future is going to happen regardless. You agree with that?
100%.
A future is going to happen. So what I look at is, if a vacuum, I think of a vacuum sucks things, and it's going to suck up something. I want to be the one that puts the stuff in the vacuum. I want my stuff sucked up, not something that I don't choose. So your future is going to happen regardless. You might as well decide to control the future, cause and create your future. So that's the clarity. Commitment, decision. Like you're deciding on this clear vision. Now you're committing to it. And when most people talk about commitment, they talk about half-assed commitment. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Only if it works for me. Only when I feel like it. Only when it's easy. I'm talking about commitment, all in commitment. Both feet in. I'm a both feet in kind of guy, right? And at the end of the day, when you do this, you got to do it when you don't want to do it, when you don't feel like doing it, when it's hard. If you do it during those times, everything becomes easier because you get 100% participation from yourself. You're going to do it when it's easy. You're going to do it when you feel like it. So you know that. And then finally, and by the way, the commitment that you make when you're both feet committed, it pulls you forward.
Yeah.
It's the new fuel. Like I talk about rocket fuel being all that toxic stuff from back in the day. My father throwing the money at me, giving up on me, all the discouragement, the haters, the people that joked and laughed about me when I went on my mission. All that's toxic, dirty, low octane fuel, but it can still get you somewhere. But once your engine and your Ferrari becomes a Ferrari engine instead of a Ford Focus engine, no offense to anybody that has Fords, you need a higher octane fuel. The higher octane fuel is your commitment and your dreams and your clear vision, because it's going to pull you forward. And finally, it's consistency, which I mentioned earlier.
There we go.
And consistency is, I have a formula. Consistency is greater than your feelings.
I love that.
So that's it.
I love it. Please, people, write this down, the 3 C's. So commit, clarity, commit, and be consistent on it. It's 100% accurate in success in itself. You have to figure out where you're going. You have to commit to it. Hell or high water, I'm going to figure it out. And then the only way people succeed, people think, and Mike, tell me if I'm wrong here, but people think success is this the one beautiful thing that you did and it was a home run. No, bro, it's doing the small things every single day that are not sexy, that are going to compound over time, and then it precedes that. So for you, your success, we could go look at all your socials, your following, the this, that, and the other. But right before you said that you did 300 podcast interviews in 18 months. I mean, that's commitment. That's consistency. So I love that. Thank you for bringing that up. And it's definitely a great way to break it apart and kind of look at it and approach it. Now, Mike, as we're kind of figuring all these things out, and you talked about, being omnipresent, and you definitely have a social media presence. How do you stand out from the noise? Because there's a lot of information out there. How do you make it that yours gets heard the best way possible? How do you make it that yours is in the forefront and you get that market share in itself so you could really bring massive value? Is there a strategy? Is it just go forward, put your head down and kind of do the work? What would you speak to that?
Here's the thing. So I never in the past had a blueprint or steps that I knew I was taking. I was just a grinder. I would go, I would decide on something and I would go. And the consistency came in not following a blueprint, but more following just doing action and going towards it, as long as it was going towards it. What I've come to find out though, doing it that way, is there eventually you'll hit a ceiling, you'll get bored, you'll lose focus, you'll lose this, track of where you should be going. And so then I figured, you know what? Blueprint would be the option that I needed, or not the option, the answer that I needed. I needed the steps. What you're asking for right now is the blueprint. And so the reason I bring that up is I saw this as a huge problem for myself, but not only myself, a lot of others. And what this leading me into is to talk about this product that we just put together in the tech space. It's called Blueprinted. It's BLOO printed. And if you go to blueprinted.com, you can check it out. It's getting ready to launch here soon. But basically, it's giving people the ability to find what you're asking for. Like, hey, C-Roc, how did you get to where you are? Is there a blueprint for that? Like, where would I start? What's step one? What's step two? How many steps are there? What happens if I get to step four and people start busting my chops, discouraging me, making jokes? Why don't you go do your podcast? Why don't you go come up with a motivational saying? Why don't you go write some more of your book? Like ignorant ass, statements. What happens when I get that? What do I do? Do I pull back? Do I hide from those people? Do I disconnect from those people? Do I handle those people? Do I put my head down and keep going? Like, what do I do? People need to know this stuff. And most people don't get this. Most people don't get the blueprints, the exact steps to success in any vertical that they choose. And that's what Blueprinted, the new tech product that we're putting out, that's what this is going to do. People like yourself that has a blueprint to where you got to, or whatever you specialize in, can go in this product and give step-by-step guidance to success.
I love it, Mike. First of all, amazing. Everything you mentioned will be in the description below, so you guys will be able to get that. I'll tag it, and I'm personally going to go check it out as well, Mike. There's definitely a lot of knowledge to be learned from what you're just saying over there, so I'll definitely unpack that in more detail. And Mike, with all of this, you being in the personal development fields as well as I, and motivation, all that stuff, tell me, what is one of the best things that you love about this industry, and one of the worst things about the industry of personal development? What would you speak to that?
The best thing is obviously the results that can come from it and the realizations people have. And when they finally get a realization in something, how like that light bulb kind of goes off. I love that part. The worst parts, there's a couple. One is that there's a lot of people in it that aren't working on themselves and holding themselves to the standards that they're working on teaching people, which is fraudulent. That's one thing. Second thing is that people, like I said, there's people that are doing it but don't have the blueprint or steps, and they're not holding themselves as coaches and consultants and trainers accountable to the results of their students. They'll just say if the students aren't having results, oh, it's the student's fault. They're not following what I'm telling them. They're not showing up. They're not committed. Yeah, they may not be. But when you take like the responsibility and allow them to, so you might want to write this down if you're watching and taking notes. To the degree you give up responsibility, you give up control.
Interesting. Okay, so I love that. I love the aspect of, the giving up aspect, and just realizing that. So thank you very much for that aspect, Mike, and really understanding and kind of breaking apart of like, hey, before teaching anybody, you have to teach yourself. It's actually the one person that you can work on. And as you alluded to previously in the conversation, the more you work on yourself, the more positivity will come your way, and then more people that will attract you. Like, hey, how do you do this? How do you teach that? And I'm sure that's how you just started your company, the Blueprint thing in itself. And by the way, one thing with that, C-Roc, is that like an application? Because you said it's digital, or is it a coaching program? What is that? Let's unpack that a bit more.
Blueprinted is, if you can imagine, a marketplace similar to the one where everybody goes and orders all their stuff and it's delivered to them. I'm not going to give them credit right now because they're not paying for advertising, but but if you go to this marketplace and you say, you know what, I want to learn how to start a podcast. And then you search that, and all these people that have put blueprints in on how to create a podcast, how to monetize with a podcast, how to write a book, how to start a business, how to start a babysitting business, how to parent better, how
Love it.
to whatever, man, how to travel hack, step by step by step process. They can search. It'll pull up all the experts that have blueprints, and it's a marketplace where they can buy the blueprints. Once they buy
Love
the
it.
blueprints, those coaches or whoever those people are, we call them architects of the blueprints. They can offer services as far as coaching or follow up or carry through to making sure these folks have success in any blueprint that they have. Look, Chris, this is a problem that coaches and digital training courses have. There's no accountability to the people that are selling these to the success of their student and client. And I'm taking 100% responsibility as one of the co-founders in Blueprinted to make sure people get results. I'm fed
Yes.
up, and I'm not just going to sit here and complain about it. I'm doing something about it.
I love that, Mike.
So to answer your question, it's an app that'll be available in the app stores as well, and a website, of course.
Perfect. And when is it launching, or is it already launched?
We're right now getting ready to launch the architect part, where we're pulling architects in to create blueprints with them.
Okay.
And, we're looking for our first 100 architects. Anybody that has expertise in any area, success in any area, that has the steps to do it, we'll help you build your blueprint. If you want to just DM me, if you're listening, then you want to be one of the first 100. By the way, anytime a new app comes out, if you're the first 100, just imagine if you were the first 100 people in Kindle, if you were the first 100 people in Facebook or Instagram. Think about that. Those people are the ones that stake their territory, gain followers, which you will have followers on Blueprinted, and they're the ones that made out the most.
Yes, Mavericks essentially. So I definitely love that approach in itself. Thank you for unpacking that a bit more and kind of clarifying that. And Mike, as I'm hearing you, it's clear that once again, you're an intense person, and not in a bad way. You're very driven and you go towards it. Now, there could be a perception, and I pretty much know where you're going to go with this, but I'm still going to ask you. I'm really interested to see your perception on this, that maybe people will think that you're just working. You do not sleep. I don't know if you have a family life and so on and so forth. How do you balance that? Do you have somewhat of a work-life balance, whatever that means to you? Do you work nonstop? How does your approach as an entrepreneur is doing so much to have that balance? What would you speak to that?
One, you mentioned earlier, I have a team. I have a lot of people. I have a team of 30 in the mortgage side of things, and in the content and podcasts, all that. I don't even know how many people there are there. I mean, a lot. And then with the tech side, I partnered with Jared Yellen, who already had Sela Labs. Then they created 10X Incubator with Grant Cardone. And we have, in the incubator now, there's, I think, close to 300 employees. So look, you got to have people. You can't do anything great yourself. You have to have people. So I couldn't get all the people myself, so I found somebody that had the people. That's one. Secondly, I live by my calendar. So I live by my calendar. That you have so much time in the day, and most people don't really use it. They don't understand it. They waste it. They don't pay attention to it. They don't assess what they're doing with their time. I look at these things, and I try to get everything out of my time so that I can sleep 8 hours a night. 7 to 8 hours every night, no problem whatsoever. I get workouts in. I eat right. I spend time with my family. I travel, but I still get shit done.
I love that. I love that. So Mike, essentially, is just being clear. Your agenda plays a huge role. And a lot of people have this perception that discipline takes something away from you. But in fact, discipline gives. And this is what you're saying. The more disciplined you are with your agenda, the more disciplined you be with your workout, the more time you'll have, the more energy you have. And the main thing, delegate, which will open up some time for you to grow and all that. So Mike, before I let you go, I just want to ask you one last question, or essentially kind of open the floor for you. Where is the best way people could reach out to you, talk to you, communicate with you, or message you about potentially being a part of your application as well, the first 100 like you mentioned?
Yeah, of course, here on Instagram. And if anybody's interested in being one of the first 100, by the way, DM me here on Instagram. Just put Blueprinted or just reference that. So here, of course, but also Clubhouse is a big place. Sunday evenings, Eastern time, 7 p.m. Eastern on Sundays. We hold a room for Blueprinted. We discuss why it's important to have blueprints and the success from that. And also Wednesdays on Clubhouse at 7 p.m. We always hold a room weekly. So check me out. Come follow me on there and you'll be notified of those. And yeah, that's the best way. And I'm very accessible. I love to engage with people. I love to talk to people. I just love people.
Let's go. Yeah, I mean, if you want to succeed in this industry, you definitely have to be like a people's person, which you clearly are. And one last question, and I'm gonna go check out your clubhouse stuff as well. One last question over here is, what can I do to support you more? Is there anything that I could do, Mike, to kind of support you, your journey, your mission with everything that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, be one of the first 100 founders, man. Like we were looking for the first 100. It's a program that we're going to help walk you through building your blueprint, help you get it on the marketplace, help you market it. And the first 100 are going to be by us, by Blueprinted, are going to be marketed and promoted as having blueprints on the system. So that's one way. And then just come in the clubhouse and support the rooms, man.
Got you on both of those. We'll definitely talk about the blueprint thing, definitely something interesting, and it'll be my pleasure to support you with that. And once again, Mike, I just want to say, man, thank you very much for blessing us with your ideology, your time, your energy, which is very vibrant and present with us. So thank you very much for that. Guys, I
Thank
know a
you,
lot of
Chris.
people ask like some amazing questions over here, so we will answer all of them. This is going to be live on Instagram, and then 1 week later is going to be on my YouTube channel. So if you guys have any questions, comment there. Me and Mike will go back and answer it. So once again, thank you very much, Mike. It was a
Thank you,
true
Chris.
pleasure.
Appreciate you, bud.
All right, have a great one. Speak to you soon. Ciao, ciao.